Hey everyone, another podcast at TruTrade. I thought we'd go over expectations of why we trade, expectations of what we're trying to make, how that correlates in our life, how we apply our trading, whether it be automation or manual trading, just expectations. What's our expectations?
And also fitting the bot to your lifestyle, right? People trade for different reasons, different expectations. So we want to talk about, it's not just about the bot, but how you should use the bot. So we'll start with expectations. So a lot of traders are new. They don't know what to expect. Like we covered in the previous podcast, the 1% rule. Typically, you don't want your account to fluctuate more than 1% a day to the downside, and more than 2% per day to the upside. If you're getting a lot of volatility, you get a good day that way, right? But the other thing too is before you start trading, you have to answer the why, right? I mean, obviously to make money, that's what we're here for. So that's obvious, right? But how does trading fit into your lifestyle? What are you making the extra money to be able to do, right? So that's why we have different products. People say, well, why do you have so many products, right? Well, we have a couple different types, with the chart list and the chart base, which we can get into in another time. But the key thing is to understand who you are, why you're trading, why are we doing this, and then what we do is we engineer a game plan from the top down. So let's say you're a trader and like, okay, I want to make, if you don't know why you're trading, set a daily goal or a weekly or monthly goal, right? And then we'll engineer it from the top down and figure out how to hit that. So let's say you want to make 500 per day, right? Okay, well, you have 5,000 your own money. That's not enough, so we need to get a prop account. Okay, so we got a 50K account. Okay. So if we do 1% per day, we can average 500 per day with that account, right? So we put together a bot. Now, do you want to be somewhat hands-on or totally hands-off, right? Like the chart list automation, you literally just turn it on, right? You control the multiplier, which is unit of risk, which is a $500 increment, per multiplier, which is already perfectly engineered for a 50K prop account. So that really is a plug and play, a set and forget. You just make sure it's on, right? And you turn it on. Whereas the chart list, it'll run fully passively once you configure it, right? Like you can configure it to be just as passive as the chart list.
Sure.
But at the same time, you have a lot more control. You can choose, when it trades, what it trades, how it trades to an extent, what filters, what instruments, what time of day you want to run it. And you set your daily drawdown could be lower or higher than $500, right? So there's a lot more of the nuances and minutiae you can control, and you can tweak the parameters. But it still has turnkey settings, like for example, Ripper XAI with the auto stop target and the volatility shield. You can just press the automated defaults, and it will handle all of that for you. But if you want to dig into and get more granular, and you want to adjust stops and targets and entries individually, you can do that as well. So basically where we're going with this is that you need to figure out who you are as a trader, right? What you want to achieve, and then how you want to achieve it, right? What do you do during the day? What is your day job?
Sure.
Do you have a full-time job? Are you retired, right? Do you want to sit there? Do you want to be in front of the screen while the bot's trading? Or do you not want to, do you want to detach further and be less emotional, right? And then, let's say...
go ahead. Sorry for interrupting, because you're hitting something that most people actually just want to know. Like, how do we get started, right? You have people that have never traded. You have ones that have been trading 1 or 2 years that can't make it. You have guys that have been trading years that's very hard to be consistent. So, how do we start, right? So that's a big question, right? Everyone wants to start. That doesn't mean that you're brand new and start. That means start to being consistent or start to trade. How do you begin? Well, it starts out with what you just said, with your account size. Okay, do I have at least $10,000 liquid to set up a broker account to trade? If you want to trade micros, you're going to need at least 2,500, 3,000. Would you say about 2,500?
Yeah,
3,000?
I might use that. I go a little higher actually.
Okay.
I don't personally think unless you have at least 30K liquid, you should ever trade your own money.
Okay.
Because you can get away with accounts, $5,000, $10,000 to trade the micros. The problem with that though is that what you're basically saying is that I'm a hobbyist. You can learn how to trade, you can learn the ropes, you can get proficient at trading, but you're never going to make enough money for it to do anything to your lifestyle, and you're going to get frustrated, right? So let's
lifestyle meaning like replace your job, or lifestyle
or
doing something extra.
Get any meaningful amount of money
for the risk and the time it takes.
Yeah, because that's the thing, that's a good point. So it takes the same amount of time to get 1% per day on $1 million, which is 10 grand a day, as it does to get 1% per day on 1,000, you know what I mean?
Sure.
Which is $10.
Right.
So same amount of effort, but look at, you get way more juice for the same squeeze.
Right.
So what we want to hammer home here is that most traders, they want to make money, but they don't know where to begin. So where you should begin is set a dollar amount, right? So if you want to make 10,000 a day, you can do that, but you better have enough capital to do it. That's not going to happen for most people.
And that goes right down to being realistic.
Right. I would advocate $500 to $1,000 a day as a starting point. Right? In my opinion, any less than $500 a day, you probably should do something else with your time. right? Because even just getting the setup, getting the server, and configuring the bot, and understanding it and taking it all in, you should. I think because most prop accounts, if you're trading your own money, you can get 500 a day quite easily with 50K. And if it's a prop account, 1% is $500, right? So I think 500 is an excellent starting point for new people, and that's still that's still six figures.
It's still great money
annually. Yeah, it's over 10K a month. A lot of people don't even make that with their jobs.
Right. So I guess what we're trying to say is expectations is, okay, look, I have X, and if I don't have X, going down the prop road is going to be your best bet. It's going to be less stressful. When it's less stressful, like we covered in our previous podcast, when you're less stressful, you're not going to provide that human experience, that human interactive with the bot. Exactly. You're not going to, okay, I lost 3 times in a row. I'm not going to execute the 4th trade in the way that was designed to do. You're going to turn the bot off. You're going to change your bet size. All of a sudden now you just had a 25 tick runner, and now you're trading micros. You're not trading e-minis like you normally were doing. And that's like what we're talking about, right? Over leveraging. That's what we were talking about in the initial podcast. And it comes right back into expectations, right? So your expectations is what? You're buying an automation to just click a button, walk away, go to the pool, and make $500 a day, never have to touch it. That's not the proper expectations that we want to relay here. Is that reasonable? Absolutely. But you also have to approach trading as a business. And I think all of our marketing, our YouTube channels, all our YouTube traders that we have, our clients, we all try to relay that your expectations, it has to be to where, and sorry for rambling for a second, but I want to make a really good point. Just because you have $100,000 in your account and Brian's talking about 1%, I actually want to talk about that really quick, because this is a really good segue into what, and I'll get back to what I was talking about. If we have $100,000 and you're trading futures, you're trading stocks, Forex, it doesn't really matter. You're not allocating $100,000, okay? When we're talking about risk, if you're trading a one lot or one contract, and you're risking $300, let's say on the ES to trade, that's what your risk is, right? You might be trading $300, but you're not trading and allocating $100,000 to your account. So when I say be reasonable, when you're risking $300 and you made $600, $900 that day, you're done. You're not going to equate that to, oh, my account's $100,000. I need to make 1% before I turn off your trading. No, it's risk. We were talking about that before. 3 to 1 is a good risk to reward ratio.
It depends.
Right?
It depends on the type of system, right? It could be
Sure.
50-50, but typically 1.5 to 2 times, right?
And we're talking about trading one instrument with obviously we're not talking about hedging.
That's very bare bones too, right? Just because that's another really good point.
Right.
Whereas most traders trade one instrument, and that's something I'll talk about now.
Sure. I mean, we're talking about expectations, and the expectation is, hey, I'm trading with $10,000, but I'm risking $300, $400 at a time. My expectation is to make what for that day? So in your mind, setting yourself up so you don't set yourself up to lose. Your expectation is 2.5 to 3 to 1. For me, I'll trade bigger size, and I won't even go 3 to 1. And you know what I mean? I'll go 2.5, and then I'm done. But I also trade larger size, right? And I also trade over larger time periods, not smaller, like 5 minutes or smaller bar sizes. And again, we covered this before in the initial podcast. So my expectation is, if I'm trading a 30 or 40 lot and I'm clipping off, 9, 10, 12, 14, $18,000 in a trade, it takes 30 seconds or even takes me a couple of hours to make that. I'm happy, I'm done. And then I also have other positions with other platforms that we use that we swing over 2 or 3 days. We have other platforms that we trade over a few months at a time. That's when you start diversifying your trading. But when you're just starting, or when you're just starting to be trying to be consistent, you want to lay out your expectations appropriately. Like Brian was saying, if you have less than 10,000, or actually 30, you were saying, and I agree, we want everyone to trade safely. We're not here to swing for the fences. You can, but you want to do it more safely, right? So like, if you're trading a prop account and you're trading one, it doesn't really matter. A prop account or a real brokerage account, you trade them all the same. There's no difference. One you're utilizing someone else's funds, and the other you're utilizing your own funds, right? And so the proper expectations is, if you're trading a one contract or if you're trading a micro, make sure 2.5, 3 to 1, and you're done for the day. Does the bot continue to work? Of course it does. But that's not what we're trying to do here. We're trying to, when we build platforms, we build them to execute trades. And I know it's automated, guys, but it's automated to execute trades. You don't want to start leaving the bot on and running all day long when you're utilizing one strategy, let's say with one contract. Can you be effective? Of course you can. I mean, with our platforms, 4 out of 5 days, we should be expected to do pretty well, to be honest with you. But we want people to trade with a little bit more reservation because we generally want you to make money. We don't want you to buy a bot with a gambling mentality and hit the button and go off onto La La Land and think that you're going to become a millionaire. And that's not what we're trying to relay here. We want, again, when you're chipping off at the tree little bits, as your account grows, then start swinging for the fences for a small percentage of your account. And 75 or 80% of your account, you're still applying those 2 to 3 to 1 ratios. And then 20 or 15% of your account, you can swing for the fences a little bit more. That way, you're still using the automation, but you're using the automation in a different way. You can take RipperX AI and run it on a 3 to 1 ratio on NQ and reload it again depending on your account and what you purchase. You can reload it and trade the ES over a longer time frame and swing for the fences that way, but not swing for the fence on one strategy every single day and every single time.
Yeah, but we also need to talk about your lifestyle. Right?
Sure.
If you're new to trading, we need to look at what does your day look like, right?
Okay.
Do you work nights? Do you work during the day?
Sure.
Are you an entrepreneur?
Right.
Are you a doctor? I mean, what are we doing here, right? Because when people think, okay, what is the right bot for me? You can make money with any of these systems. They're all very good.
Sure.
But there are varying degrees of control. And with more control, you give up more. Like if you want more control, it's the bot's going to require more out of you. If you want less control, the bot will require less of you.
And what do you mean? I know what you mean, but tell me.
So like, for example, like we have RipperX AI, our two most popular products right now, the two newest ones, all the AI products, right? We have the RipperX AI, which is chart-based, right? But it has a lot of proprietary filters, like the volatility shield, auto-stop target technology, that it will essentially keep you out of consolidations, keep you from getting chopped up if you run it, like a lot of bots don't have volatility filters built in. So if volatility spikes or contracts, it goes making money and it starts getting chewed up, right? Because the volatility's changed. That's where the run it all day thing comes into play, right? So RipperX AI, you could run it on a VPS all day long if you wanted to, if you run it in very strict parameters. But those same strict parameters will actually make you less money on the open because you're being too strict, right? So if you want to run it in a very strict way and leave it on for 24 hours, you can do that. But if you run it a little bit more aggressively on the open, you'll have a slightly lower win rate, a slightly lower profit per trade, but your frequency will double or triple. So instead of taking 4 trades throughout the day, you take 5 trades on the open, and you made, let's say, $2,000, but you made $2,000 the whole day grinding away in the background, right? So if some people have like psychological issues where like they don't want to leave the bot alone, right? They're like, I have to watch it, right? And I guess if you're new, that makes some degree of sense, right? But if you've used the bot for a while, you'll learn to trust it, learn to leave it alone, right? And the chartless stuff, like I said, you just choose the time of day that it trades with the sessions. We definitely recommend that you just run them 24/7, right? And you choose a multiplier, so unit of risk. So each multiplier is $500 unit of risk, and every time you increase that multiplier by 1, it will double the trade sizes accordingly, right? So
what you were saying though is expectations on when do you have time to trade. Then the other expectation you were saying is, well, how are you gonna when are you gonna apply the bot?
Well, that's what I'm saying. So if you're new to trading, you've got to figure out, okay, a dollar amount, a business plan, right? Trading. This is a business.
Sure.
So we need to treat it like any other business.
So like in other words, not to cut you off, but so in other words, okay, I have time to trade just before the open and maybe the first hour of the open. So the expectations of that would be, what would you tell them?
So if you want to be in front of the screen and you want to watch the bot, and you're not one of those guys that can't leave it alone or whatever, and they're out there.
Sure.
Some people don't. Some people want to look at it. Only want to look at it. Some people don't want to look at it at all.
Sure.
Right. So we're not trying. It'll perform whether you're watching it or not. It's irrelevant, right? But if you want to, like for example, as a chart trader, you can say long or short only or both or whatever, and toggle that. So if you want to fly the plane a little bit, you can do that with RipperX AI. So if you want to attack the open, which is where the most volatility is, that's where the potential to make the most money the fastest is. So most people can get all their money for the day on the open, like maybe a half hour before, and an hour or so, hour and a half after the open, and get all the money they want for the day. That's where we make the bulk of our money. That's where the bulk of the movement is. Right?
But what would the expectations be if you talk to somebody that's brand new, watch this podcast? What would be the expectation?
Well, the same we talked about last time, the 1%, right? But you can get that in a lot of different ways. So we want to take your psychological makeup, right? Pick the product based on whether you want to be hands-on or hands-off, to what extent, and then look at what your day looks like, right? Like I said, we host everything on our VPS. You can configure it, you can set and forget it. We give you default parameters for everything we sell, But if you have to ask yourself, like, what are you doing during the day, right? Do you even have time or desire? Because we have different kinds of clients. We have some people are traders. They enjoy the game. They want to trade. They want to be, they want to have some effect over of the outcome of the trading, control the bot. Some people just want the money, and they're not real traders, right? So if you just want the money,
like
not
an
be a
investment,
trader,
so
right? So that's where the chartless comes in.
Sure.
With the chartless product, like the Ripper One AI, you're not doing the trading. The bot is. You control the light switch on off, right? You control the amount of leverage, but you're not controlling the instrument, the system, when it trades, what it trades, or how it trades. That's all being done for you with our proprietary technology. But so if you're okay with that, right, you can run that. But if you want to sit there and say, okay, I want to trade the NQ only, I want to attack the open, I want to trade with this level of strictness or this parameter on or off, then you can set it. It's still a plug and play once configured, and it will run, in that window. So that's part of the thing, is just figuring out who you are, what you're doing, and what you want to get out of this. So there's a dollar amount, right? So first we figure out the dollar amount.
Sure.
I said 500 to 1,000 a day. I don't recommend going more than that, more than 1,000 or less than 500. That's a perfect starting range. It's enough money to not be too emotionally involved, and it's not so much that you're going to be like, I don't want people thinking about running 15 bots at once. Get in there, do that. And then the other thing too was the multi-instrument thing, which we can talk about, in the next segment.
Sure. But
basically, so just to summarize here, you've got to figure out, okay, what's a good target, right? What kind of account size do we have? Is a target realistic for the account size? If the target is more than 1% of the account, it's not realistic. You need to get a bigger account.
I mean, that's actually a really good point, Brian. Like, what if your target is 500 and you have $5,000 in the account?
That's not happening.
It's not. But there are a lot of people. We listen. We field a lot of calls all day long. We have 200-300 leads a day that come in, and there are people. And this is a great thing to talk about real quick. I wasn't expecting to talk about this, but we're just going to talk about it. We shoo a lot of people away. Brian and I, listen. We're very upfront. We're not here to just sit there and sell these things to everybody. We want to have a good experience. You're expected to do well with our platforms, period. That's why we build them. And we turn a lot of people away. I know Brian does a lot. And sometimes even on reviews or something like that, sometimes it'll be called rude or this, but what we're being is we're just being blunt. We don't want somebody that thinks they have, their last $2,000 and they're going to buy the bot and they're going to make $500 a day. It's very easy for another company to say, oh yeah, of course, but we don't play those games, right? Yeah. I mean, we rather you go on your day, save some more money, come back to us, or at least to this company, when you're ready to take trading seriously. We're not trying to set false expectations, which is what we're talking about right now, which is expectations, right? You want to make $500 a day. I mean, you better have $15,000, $20,000 to do it, and that would be the minimum. Would
if it's your own cash, right? At least 20.
At least 20.
If it's
right?
a prop firm, then you want 50 plus.
Right, because 15,000, 20,000. The max I would want to trade, the max, and this is not all the time, would be like a 3-lot, but I would say a 2-lot at that point.
Yeah, but like I said, I really don't advocate trading your own money unless you've got at least 30,000 you can stash away and you don't need. You can grow that. Otherwise, just get prop accounts because you'll get ahead much faster. At the end of the day, this is a game of math. It's about statistics. That's it. Emotions have no place here. If we're just talking dollars and cents, trading the 10,000, 50,000 your own money doesn't make any sense.
And what we're talking about right now is expectation, which kind of like flows right into what we were talking about previously on the previous podcast, was position management. What was risk, right? The human thought process of being stressed out when you're trading. That's what we're talking about right now, is the reason why Brian's saying 25, 30,000 before he starts, because he's trying to remove the emotions from you guys from trading. So the less emotions that you have, the more stress that you have, the less that you're going to make adjustments with platforms, your own trading or automation, and then you're just going to allow your decision making to be consistent.
Yeah, but the other reason is this: if you're trading less than 30,000 or so, the dollar amount, you're going to put the work in, you're going to learn how to do it, but the juice isn't worth the squeeze.
So you're saying the psychological effect of what you're getting out of it.
Yeah, you're making, let's say you're trading $10,000, you're making $1,200 per day, and you're very disciplined, you're very good. And don't get me wrong, you can make money with small accounts like that. But what are we doing here, right?
Right.
If you're making $100 a day, why are we even doing this? Right? What is the point? So you can learn to trade, but in terms of input versus output, just get a couple prop accounts, a couple 50K prop accounts. Once they start paying you, take that money, open up your own LLC, and then run the two together. right? Because
Right.
all you're doing with the 10,000, like, oh, I don't want to trade prop accounts. That's just an ego play. You want to
Sure.
use your own cash, but here's the thing: with $10,000, you're not going to be paying the bills with the profits. You're going to compound it. So if you leave the money in there and compound it anyways, just use a prop account, right? You can't. You're not going to make enough money to take money out of that with that small of an
So
account.
what you're
right?
saying is, why apply the extra
Right.
stress to it?
So you're doing the same process, but the person with 50K funded accounts is killing you in terms of profit. Because they're doing the same thing but on a massive scale, and then once they start paying out, you could take that, like I said, open up your own LLC, right? And you have the funded prop accounts, and you have your own cash, and you're running them both together, and you're well on your way. So it's not that you can't make money that way, but we don't, like 5 years ago, the prop thing kind of got big in COVID, and the prop thing is so prevalent in our conversations because the vast majority of traders need to use prop accounts in order to use proper risk management, right? Most people have 5, 10. The micro guy has disappeared, largely disappeared in the last 4 or 5 years, right? Especially in the last couple of years. Like I said, the COVID brought a lot of new blood to trading because nobody wanted to go back to work every day to make money from home.
It's funny that you brought that up too, because the prop accounts, they have very stringent rules, but the rules that we almost apply ourselves, and
No, I said this countless times. I agree with these drawdowns. It was like, oh, the drawdown's too tight. No, you're just over leveraging.
Yes, and over leveraging is probably, would you agree?
Yeah.
The biggest issue.
Yes, the number one destroyer of traders.
Yes, of psychologically your accounts.
But the reasons for over leveraging are many, right? There's the the account's too small to begin with, so you're just inherently going to over leverage. Then there's it's not my money, it's a prop account, so I'm just going to swing for the fences, right? And then there's the other thing: even if you're not over leveraging and you're getting disciplined, you're going to lose your discipline because the amount of, let's say, like I said, you take a $10,000 account, you're trading it perfectly, getting like 1% per day, $100 a day. You're going to get bored, right?
Right.
Like, okay, so I want to make $500 a day so I can actually do something with this money. And so you're going to start over trading,
Right.
And then you're going to ruin it because it took too long to get anywhere. So that's why I don't advocate trading your own money.
And that's when you start thinking about, okay, I'm trading wrong, I'm doing this, the indicator, the bot, everything I'm using is wrong, but most of the time it's not. It's over leveraging.
I actually think most people should sim for a week, then get 50K evals.
Sim appropriately.
Yeah,
like sim real world.
Right. Sim as if it was your life on the line. Like take it seriously, right? And then go to 50K evals, which are the easiest ones to get funded. Don't go for the little small 25s or the big 300s. Stay away from that stuff. Stick with the 50s. They have the easiest target versus drawdown ratio, the easiest to fund. Get those funded. Get 3 or 4, maybe 5 of those funded. Once they start paying you out, take that money, form your own LLC, put it in there, and start trading your own cash with the prop accounts, and you're flying. 6 months you can go from nothing to very successful in a 6-month time window, just following that game plan, right? But you don't need to do it all in 1 week. Just take a few months. Just you have to crawl, walk,
Sure.
run, sprint. Stop trying to sprint before you can crawl across the floor.
And that's the problem with almost everything. It's not just trading.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to go too fast. We all play on the phone. We want instant satisfaction.
Yeah. So, but that's my point. Like it's part of it's just the constant barrage of information. We have information overload, and trading's a complicated topic. There's a lot of different reasons for it, but basically what we're trying to say here is, expectation, right? Just to summarize, figure out why you're trading, right? Figure out a dollar amount that works for you. We recommend 500 to 1,000. If you have less than 30,000 of your own money, don't even think about trading your own cash. Forget it, because from a mathematical standpoint, you're going to take a lot longer than the guys using prop accounts. Get prop accounts, use them responsibly. Once they start paying you, get your own LLC, do your own trading, and trade them both together, and you'll get where you want to go much faster. If you've got 6 figures of your own cash and you want to just trade your own money, go for it, right?
Right.
But the 5, 10,000 micro, don't bother.
That's really, you actually made a really good point I didn't think of before, is they're trading such small size, and then they get bored. Then they start swinging for the fence.
because
and then when they bust their account, they get kind of a little demoralized.
Right.
Right.
Because it's a lot of grind for no gain,
nothing. For no
right?
gain.
And so you'll get fatigued.
Right. So the only way you feel better is you have a massive gain.
So all you did with 10K is that you learned how to trade.
How not to trade.
But you still don't have any money because you trade such small size.
Right.
So because we have the bot, there's no need for new traders right now, 2024, to go through that grind. TruTrade has solved that problem for you. With prop accounts, you've got access to funding, right? With bots, you have automated, very good trade selection. You have something that can run passively automated in the background, right? And the bot will enforce discipline. And we also have financing for our products, which is available. So you actually can finance the bot, get a prop account, and all of the barriers have been busted down that used to be impediments to be able to trade. You used to have to have like at least 30K of your own money, right, or more. You used to have to be able to pay for the software out of pocket, right, and you had to have the skills to actually trade. So it took years of grind in the late 90s, early 2000s when day trading kind of took off, right? The first era, the first prop era, right? If traders remember that, the other guys will remember that. So in there, like that's what we're talking about. So you've got to have a clear-cut reason why we're doing this, a very clearly defined game plan, and you've got to execute the game plan. And if just from 0 to 6, in a 6-month time frame, you can go from being nothing to being very successful if you just follow simple guidelines.
Just simple expectations.
And 6 months goes by very quickly. I mean, you could in 90 days get to making really good money. In 6 months, making big money if you just take your time.
Yeah, and if you understand, we're not pitching in 1 week you're going to make X. I do want to clarify something. When you start seeing YouTube ads, when you start seeing all this jargon that's out there, you can make money, you only have to move 5 minutes a day. You guys just need to run. I'm just telling you this right now. What Brian's talking about right now is real world. We're here to give you real information, and we're not selling you, we're not doing any of that. We're trying to tell you how to be successful. We're not telling you what to buy, when to buy it. You're going to make money tomorrow. You're going to be on vacation next week. You can do those things, but it takes time. Any person that has a lot of money, it took me 25 years to gain, to be wealthy. It takes a long time to have good credit, to have a good credit file. It takes a long time to buy these things and make mistakes and come back around and hopefully not make them again. And it goes back into your mindset. It goes back into expectations of what you need. And as you get older, you realize, well, wait a second, if I just went slow about it, you actually would have sped up that learning curve. Because most traders, they keep making the same mistakes over and over again, and you perpetuate those problems. If you just started slower, the aggravation would be cut.
Yeah, I mean, I would say a whole decade goes by. Like, I got another eval, I just blew it because I rushed, and pretty soon you just calendar creep, and 6 months go by.
Right.
And if you just would have did it right the first time.
And I was guilty of it years ago too. I mean, we're all guilty of that, right? But with TruTrade, I think the only thing you have to worry about these days is expectations and proper money management is what you really need to focus on.
Right, because the need to learn how to trade has been removed.
Sure.
Instead of learning how to trade, you simply have to learn how to use a bot, which is a much easier process than learning how to trade. Learning how to trade is difficult. It takes a long time.
And I know we're talking about expectations, but what you just said right there, for 2 minutes, someone goes, well, what do you mean it's automation? What do you mean you have to learn how to trade a bot? Just 2 minutes.
Yeah. Well, the bot's a tool.
Bot's a tool. But explain that, because
yeah.
I want people to understand, and there's a different ways to trade bots, okay? That we have bot networks, and there's also a singular bot. When you're trading a bot by itself with one instrument, there's a different way that you trade automation. I know it might sound kind of weird to some of you guys, but when you're trading automation and you're trading one instrument, and when you're trading, let's say, it doesn't matter the lot size, but if you're trading one instrument, there's a different way that you trade it than if you're trading a completely hedged platform.
Well, that's a portfolio.
Sure.
Right.
But then you trade them differently. You can take more risk. There's a lot of things, but explain to them in layman term of why you need to understand a bot trading with one instrument. Why is that important?
Well, it's different because, again, like the big money, keep in mind, TruTrade we've modeled what the big institutions, the hedge funds, the money management firms, they're not trading one instrument with a tight stop, and they're not just sitting there, to use an analogy, chipping away at the NQ, right?
Sure.
Now, you can do that successfully.
Sure.
As a small trader, you don't have the liquidity to trade 10 things at once. Even if you wanted to, that would not be recommended because you'd be over leveraged, right?
Sure.
But you can get to that point and get even more of an edge by doing so. So most people just trade what they like, right? Like, oh, I like the oil, I like gold, I like the NQ, I like Forex, I like the euro, whatever, right? They just trade whatever they like, for whatever reason. That's not really relevant here, but whatever they like, they trade, right? Which is part of the problem. But if you're going to go for like $500,000 a day, you can do that successfully with just one instrument, with one bot, with one set of parameters. But you want to start making like 5, 10, 15, 20, 30, getting into the let's say 5-figure type money and higher. Right. Which can easily be done, but it's a little bit different approach here, right? So you can start trading different systems, like for example, a scalp versus a trend versus mean reversion. So you can run different systems concurrently. You also can trade multiple instruments. So let's say, for example, like the NQ is going up, but oil's going down, or vice versa, because you want to trade like a basket of minimally correlated instruments, right? So what we're talking about here is an automated portfolio. There's individual bots, which is where the starting point for most people, right? But as you grow and scale, you can trade multiple bots in what we call a bot network, right? And we also have the hedging thing, right? Where you actually can hedge, which we can talk about for a second.
But when you're trading a single bot, why would it be more important to trade? Why do you need to kind of understand the nuances of that automation?
Well, because you have to custom tailor the bot for you. That's the missing link. A lot of people are like, oh, it's the bot. I don't have to think. Or I just turn my mind off, right?
Okay.
But the bot is a tool that, when used appropriately and responsibly, will make your life so much easier. You'll make so much more money with so much less effort, so much less stress, right? But you can misuse a tool like any tool, right? And I don't have to make analogies here, but
a lot of people they haven't used automation, right? So they're thinking that it automates. They're thinking it's like you go to the larger bank, you put your money in, and you just watch it grow.
Well, the main thing here is risk management, right? So it's just
right.
If it's just
so that would be the only thing you would need to do.
Right, exactly. Right. So if you train just one bot, then there's different degrees of conservative or aggressive modes of running the bots. Like Ripper XAI, like if you're using the chartless Ripper 1, it's just one mode, right? So this is completely removed.
Sure.
Right. So there's really nothing for you to do there at all, right? But that's mostly for people who just want to make profits and don't really want to deep into the trading minutia, right? But for the Ripper XAI, for the traders, the chart-based platforms with chart traders and all that, the main thing is money management, right? If you're trading just one instrument, you need to be much stricter with money management. If you're trading multiple instruments, which we don't recommend with a 50K, prop account. If you have less than 6 figures, forget about trading 4 or 5 things at once. That can be done with micros, but it's a little bit too much work for the output.
Sure.
So, like I said, most people start out with just one system, trade 1 or 2 instruments, like NQES, probably stick with those 2, right? Because they're liquid and volatile, and that's perfect for that size range.
Right.
Once you've done that and you want to expand out, then we can get into hedging through, like the NQ versus the MNQ, like micros hedging the main instrument, right? Or we can do multi-instrument hedges, like where we have oil and gold, and we have the NQ and ES, and where we've got a portfolio of interconnected bots, but they're diversifying risk, so you get a smoother equity curve because you're multiple things. Sure. But that's more advanced to in-game stuff.
Which we'll get into some other
So
time.
basically, your point is that you can misuse a bot by over leveraging. That's the main thing.
And it just goes back to leveraging again.
Right. So
that's pretty much what it is. Is when we say get used to a bot, it doesn't mean that it's all this extra work. That means, like we were talking about before, sim for 1 or 2 weeks. I like to at least 2. I tell my clients at least 2 weeks, right? And it's not sim to make money. It's to understand what you're utilizing. That way, it takes away that human guesswork, which makes you turn the bot off, on, readjust your size. That's what we mean by getting used to it. We want you to get used to the feel of what it does, so you can feel more comfortable. And the more comfortable you feel, which goes back to trading the correct size, that correlates with your account. And that way you're not having those butterflies in your stomach when you're trading. When you have butterflies in your stomach, that's an indicator that you're trading too much size.
Or you don't know what you're doing. You have no game plan.
Well, either one is not good.
Right. You either have no idea what you're doing, and you're just going.
So if you're trading with butterflies in your stomach, step down. If you're already stepped down, like Brian was just saying, and you still have butterflies, then that's what simulation's for. That's what prop is for. You can trade a prop account. Okay, you blow a count out. Not that big of a deal, right? But as long as you're applying the rules and you have the right plan put together, you have the right expectations that are put together, which is what we're talking about here. You're going to do just fine.
But there's also the issue of expectation. The reason why I want to sim is so like trade frequency, right? And how the bot operates, because there's expectation on like some people think, oh, how many trades is it going to take, right? They don't know. Right? If I run this set of parameters, how many entries am I going to get on the open, right? Like there's going to be, like for example, if you run this group of settings, you make it typically 3 or 4 trades in the first hour.
Okay.
You run this group of settings, you might get 1 or 2 trades all day. You run this group of settings, you make it 15 trades on the open, right? So you want to also get your trade count in line with your target amount, right? So let's say your target's $500, right? You don't want to risk more than $100 per trade if your target is $500. Because you don't want to risk more than like 20% of what your target amount is on your trade. Otherwise, you're over leveraged, not based on the account size, but based on the target that you're going after. So let's say you risk 100.
And I think that's where most people in general get it wrong. So So be specific with that again.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
there's the percentage of your account in total, right?
Okay.
But if your target, you should only risk X percent of your target amount per trade on
Sure.
the session,
Mm-hmm.
which should be no more than 20%.
Okay.
So 10 would be even better, but 20% is okay. So 10
Okay.
20%. So let's say your target is 1,000. You shouldn't be risking more than 200 per trade. Because if you lose 5 trades in a row, you're gonna blow it out, right?
Sure.
So if a lot of people will say, "I want to make $500 a day," but they're risking 200-300 per trade. So if they start out with a little bit of bad luck, they're already done, right?
Right.
So you have to have 1% of your account. You should never draw down more than 1% of your account per day. You can go up more than 1%. You can go up 2 or 3%. But if you're going up more than 2 or 3%, you're typically over leveraging, right? It's hard to get like a 1% max risk and get 3% per day on the upside. That's really hard to do. So typically you're going to go for like 1 to 1.5, 2. So no more than 1% drawdown. And if your profit target should be between 1 and 2% on the upside. But let's say you're going for $1,000 a day. Do not risk more than 200 per trade. If you're risking 300 or 400 per trade, you're going to blow out from that angle, from the risk per position per trade. So you're risking X percent of your account, but that percent of your account needs to be broken down into risk per trade as well.
Yes.
So if you're going for 500 a day, don't risk more than $100 per trade. If you're going for 1,000 a day, don't risk more than 200. Now, obviously, you can play with these numbers a little bit, but these are great starting points.
Sure.
And that's another common way so they say, okay, my risk is 500 per day, but what's your risk per trade? Your risk better not be 200-300 per trade.
And I don't think most people.
That's too high.
I don't think most people look at it the risk per trade. No. I don't. Most people don't.
No, it's not a commonly talked about metric.
It's not a common talk about at all, and that's why
it's critical.
That's why I wanted you to reiterate that, because that is critical. It's things that you and I do naturally, and I don't really hear anyone talking about.
So no more than 1% of your account,
sure,
right? And no more than 20% of that 1% per trade would be a good starting point.